Hello and welcome to ShowPod. I'm Mr. P here once again with Mr. Jethro and Mr. Dave.
Hello.
Hello.
The last video we did, we talked about Airwolf.
Yes, we did.
One of my favourite shows of the 80s. You probably gathered if you fell asleep listening to it. Because it was pretty much me just talking at you about Airwolf for however long it was. But anyway, there's just one thing I want to say about this.
Okay.
Sorry. I did speak about a particular episode quite a lot.
Right, yes, you did.
Do you remember what it was called, Dave?
Was it the Sweet Britches one?
Yes, it was Sweet Richard. Well done, well done.
Yes, we did. We did listen. You see.
I'm surprised. I'm just shocked.
Even if they didn't, we did.
And I did say I got confused actually with an episode called Daddy's Gone a Hunting. If you remember me saying that, and I was like, oh, hang on, was that a different episode? It had been a long day, right? It was hot under these studio lights that we've got, and my brain just went frazzled. So this is my sort of column 9, page 68 retraction. Okay,
I see.
Which I'm doing publicly, which is that none of the things that I was referencing was from the episode Daddy's Gone a Hunting. It was all from Sweet Butchers. The stuntman, the motorbike, the aerial shots, the Caitlin O'Shaughnessy, all of it.
Pretty much an eventful episode then.
Yeah. It's the first episode of series 2. We then don't see Caitlin again towards the end, and she comes in for series 3, all of series 3. In fact, the first episode of series 3, I think she comes in. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I don't say them and get that wrong. Daddy's Gone a Hunting was the first episode after the pilot. Okay, so it was the first normal episode after the pilot, and it's just because a dad goes to trade an aircraft, a US jet, to the Russians to get his family back. And Hawk and Centine and Airwolf get involved, and hence why Daddy's Gone a Hunting, because they've gone after the bad guys, basically. That's it. It's got nothing to do with anything I said. So there you go. So I did correct myself. I did look it up as soon as we'd finished filming, so I could have a look, because that was really bugging me. I knew there was an episode called that, and for some reason I've got it in my head, because in the episode Sweet Britches, there is a bit where they go hunting on a game reserve, and that's why it was confusing me.
It's got those a little mixed up.
Yeah.
Those two. Easy then.
But anyway, that was last time. This is this time. How is everybody?
Very good, very good.
Excellent. Excellent.
Just to tie into a previous episode where we spoke about like UFOs and aliens.
Yes, we did.
Just to recap where we were, you were on the firm belief that aliens have not visited Earth.
I pretty much, we said, look, it's either, I think I started the episode, on definitely not. I still ended up on that side of the 50%, but I was willing to admit that there were things that I wasn't aware of and didn't know about. So the one thing I mentioned was footage from satellites in space. I think, Dave, you mentioned that there had been some sightings of something.
Right.
I'm not willing to admit that it's aliens, but I admitted that there was more I needed to look up.
So one could say the truth is out there.
You could say that.
Yeah.
You
Some sort of truth
in
is
fact,
out there
say
somewhere.
that. Yeah. Now, was that big tie-in you were going to do to what we were talking about?
Well, no, Dave, you're more on the maybe it's aliens, maybe it's not. Well, we don't really know that. Is that a fair assessment?
I think I was kind of on the side of, I've seen quite a bit of evidence and stories and things over the years, and so I said probably yes, but couldn't give a definitive, obviously. I think it's a very interesting subject, and obviously there's, like Mr. P said, there's two sides of the coin, and I think the population is quite split like that, to be fair. I don't think it's just the room, I think it's the planet, basically.
The thing about aliens
Thing about aliens.
Well, we don't know, do we?
Well, what I mean is, the thing about the topic of talking about whether aliens have been or not is we are one small tiny speck in this infinite vast galaxy that's then in an infinite selection of galaxies in an infinite universe with lots of galaxies. And although you can ask scientists on Earth now and people that are very knowledgeable about how the universe works, Professor Brian Cox and so on, they'll never definitively say that there are aliens, and they'll never definitively say there aren't.
No.
But 9 times out of 10, they'll say it's very unlikely that aliens have come here because of X, Y, Z. And I kind of, in that video we did quite a little while ago now, I did kind of try and put those X, Y, Zs across. And what I had was, you guys would counter with but. And some of those buts I could then bounce back. Some I couldn't. But that doesn't mean, that just means I wasn't prepared enough to do that.
You don't know.
Yeah, no. And, you know, you can't possibly say that life hasn't developed in the universe to a point where it's developed technologies and is able to travel distances and visit planets. I just don't think it's happened.
So my question being, have any of you seen a cryptid?
No, at the minute I'm too busy just looking for a tissue. What is that, Jethro?
Well, it's not like a cryptocurrency or like Bitcoin and that. It's nothing to do with
Seems to
that.
do with the planet Krypton.
No, nothing to do with that.
So KLYPTI.
No, a cryptid is like some sort of like...
Board game for all the family.
no, I mean, it could be possibly.
If Mattel decide to monetize it, you never know.
MB Games,
Hey.
come on, you know it makes sense.
Mate, there's money in...
Find
in
the
that.
Bigfoot. It's for the whole family.
Yeah, something like Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster, things like that people believe that are out there, is like monsters or...
Creatures
Right.
that have not yet been categorised and recorded by
Yes.
science, but people have reported seeing them. And
Essentially, yes. Have any of you seen a cryptid?
I've been to Loch Ness.
Have you seen
That's
the
probably
monster?
about the closest that
I've been to Loch
seen a
Ness.
cryptid.
I've been to Loch Ness.
Yeah.
I didn't see a monster.
No, I didn't see a monster either.
Doesn't mean there isn't a monster.
No.
Doesn't mean there is one either.
No, it doesn't.
Maybe his head may have been under the water that day.
Might be hiding.
Yeah,
Might be on holiday.
never know.
But anyway,
That's
that's...
another interesting subject, and again, it does tie in nicely to the core thing that we're talking about,
Yes,
isn't it?
which is...
The X-Files.
The X-Files.
Yes, anyway, good. The X-Files.
Yes.
We've just dropped into, like, every time we record now, we're sort of humming the theme tune.
Yeah.
Which to anyone listening would probably think, what noise
What
are
was
these
that?
guys
And,
making?
and every tune that we hum eventually becomes the Geeky Guys theme, doesn't it?
We always drop back to... Anyway, yes, the X-Files.
Yes.
Appropriately addressed set again, of course, with our one, I believe, we've got Gillian Anderson and David Coffey over there.
Which are signed.
They are, yeah.
I did get those signed a few years ago and spent some amount of money because I thought it'd be a nice thing to have.
A few
yeah.
pennies. A few pennies.
Worth it, I'd say. I don't know how much you spent, but it's definitely worth it.
Yeah.
Myself and Dave have been to many cons over the years.
Yeah.
In fact, all three of us are going to be going to a con very soon, just for the day,
Ooh.
down the road in Nottingham.
When we've
Should be lovely.
eventually bought tickets.
We need to buy the tickets.
Yes, that would help.
Please, everyone, remind me we need to buy the tickets. There we go. That's you at home I'm talking to,
And
not
the next
anyone.
episode will come on. We didn't get to MCon, unfortunately.
We stood outside.
We decided
Yeah.
to do.
We've met quite a few people at cons, and if you go to geekyguys.co.uk, there'll be a link there to our pictures on PixieSet, or you can
Yeah.
search for us on PixieSet, and we've got all our
We've
pictures
met
on
quite
there.
a few, haven't we, from the worlds of the geek sphere.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Right.
what from the X-Files going on to this one?
You don't tend to get that many.
No.
David Duchovny has done a couple of UK ones in the last 10 years, but he doesn't do many. Same with Gillian Anderson.
She's done perhaps a few more.
Yeah, maybe
being
like
British, I guess.
the London ones, you
Yeah.
might get them at a little bit more, but they don't tend to do a lot.
Not
they
regional.
They haven't. I mean, David Duchovny's not done a ton of stuff TV movie wise lately. Gillian Anderson a little bit more. But I think that's probably partly to do with it. They're probably not promoting stuff as much. But you don't really even see that many of the like associated cast. The only one that you did get occasionally that I've not seen for a while is the guy who played Walter Skinner, Mitch Pileggi.
Yes. He was also in Stargate Atlantis.
Yeah, he was also in Supernatural as Henry Campbell.
Yeah, is he like a Vancouver staple then? I guess.
Yeah, probably.
He's been in one or two things.
Been in quite a few bits, especially sci-fi and fantasy. There's a lot of them.
Yeah.
He's done a couple, but yeah, you don't tend to see many at
Yes,
all,
it was
really.
in Supergirl.
Yeah,
TV
and
series.
as well.
TV series. Supergirl.
Yeah.
He's been in The Rookie, American Horror Story, NCIS. Oh, that's where I know him from. Win Crawford from NCIS. Just looking up his
So
things here.
it's done quite a bit, but yeah, to answer you, it's rare you do get any X-Files cast. If you do, it tends to be very occasionally at a London convention.
Fair enough. I mean, it's from like, 30 years ago. I mean,
Yeah.
we've had
It's
a lot
worth
of sort
just-
of bits with the revival in 2016 and 2018. It came back for a couple of seasons then.
Yeah.
And there's rumblings of a new series coming out then, but yeah, the majority of it is in the 90s to early noughties.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I suppose
93.
1993 to 2002, yes.
And now a word about our sponsor. Are you looking to take your business or idea online? Then Namespace has you covered. From personal websites, e-commerce and fully managed IT services, see what Namespace can do for you today at namespace.rocks.
Well, yeah, just a bit of trivia there.
Yeah.
It was at the time when it ended, it was the longest running, consistently airing sci-fi TV series.
Right.
Only to be topped by Stargate SG-1,
I was going to say Stargate.
and then that got topped by Supernatural.
Of course, yes.
makes sense.
Yeah. Which I still haven't watched all of that either.
Yeah. But to give you the basic premise.
Yeah. I've seen the pilot
Yeah.
and like a couple of episodes after that. But that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
So the first like 4. So the way I understand it is basically they're chucked together to investigate the weird and bizarre and the unexplainable.
Yeah.
That's to start with. That's all I got.
Well,
Or one's doing it, the other's checking up on them.
essentially,
And
yeah.
yet they become a team. That's all I got from it.
Yeah, with the typical dynamic of two cops solving something. You've got the one that has that's a bit weird, that's a bit aloof, and with that in this case it's Mulder, and then you've got the one that's a bit more sort of like
Grounded.
Grounded, yeah, which is Scully in this.
So Dana Scully.
Dana Scully.
Dana, sorry, I know it's spelled D-A-N-A. Played by Gillian Anderson.
Yeah,
So Fox Mulder is played by David
David
Duchovny.
Duchovny.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah, so he's basically a young hotshot FBI agent, but he's got this kind of side of him where he's interested in the weird and the unexplained and UFOs and aliens, and he's got a reason for UFO alien interest, which they go into during the series. That's one of the arcs that
Right.
it begins at the start. And he's got this nickname of Spooky Mulder, which I think he earns at Quantico. He's doing his training.
I'm guessing that's because of what he wants to investigate.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he ends up being assigned to a side of the special investigations called the X-Files, which is kind of like unexplained, unsolved mysteries, unexplained, unsolved deaths, things that have got a weird element to them. And then he will go out and like investigate, and because they worry, because he's got this kind of interest already there in this kind of world, that he's going to immediately go to it's this, it's that, and he's not going to be quite as objective.
Which he does quite a lot, to be fair.
Yeah, which isn't actually as bad as they think he's going to be. He's reasonably logical. But they bring in Dana Scully as like who's like been to medical school, very good, very qualified scientist who
Comes
just
in as a
goes,
skeptic, if you
yeah,
like to.
who's like the
Yeah.
skeptic who grounds it, who will come in and he'll say, oh, this could be this, and she'll say, yeah, but it can't, how can it be that because of this, or this doesn't explain this, or where's your evidence, and that sort of thing.
Excuse me. if he's this sort of, into this stuff anyway, wouldn't they just assign it to somebody else? Or would there be no show then? Is that?
Yeah, I suppose that's the thing. And like we said earlier about the Ark, basically one of the reasons that Mulder's so passionate about it is because his sister went missing when he was younger, and it was this kind of like taken in the night, abducted by aliens. This weird thing went on, and so he's trying to find out about that. And so as the series progresses, there's kind of this arc that's all the way through about what's the truth about the aliens, what's the truth about the visitations, the abductions, what's the connection to the aliens and the government, are they working together, and he's trying to find out, is his sister still alive, where is she, who took her, and all the rest of it. But it's funny that you mentioned Supernatural, because it kind of, at one point, they kind of do obviously follow that arc a lot, and there's a lot of UFO alien subject matter in there across the seasons, but they also sometimes go into like a bit of a monster of the week, don't they?
Which is, something important to note is that episodes can be put into 2 different categories.
Yeah.
Let's say your Monster of the Week episodes, which are your standalone, there's something weird happening, like, I don't know, like say the episode The Host in season 2. You got the Fluke Man, which, there's this sort of a fish or like an eel sort of thing that's been like captured by this fishing trawler, and it lays an egg in somebody, a fisherman, and when it comes back is its offspring grows in, and he like goes down the drain, and then it starts like killing other people. Then they find it, and there's essentially a conversation of like, well, yeah, but what do we do with it now? Do we, arrest it, put it on trial? Because it almost looks like a person, almost behaves like a person, but it's almost not as well. So this is really interesting conversation of what do you do with it? But the other type of episode is the mythology episodes, which is dealing mainly with the conspiracy, the relationship between the government and the aliens. Usually features the cigarette smoking man.
Yeah.
I was going to mention that later to you, because in fact I will do it now, because a little while ago actually I asked you, Jethro, if you could be a character from any TV show or film, who would you be? Now you know where this is going now, but I thought you'd go with some kind of main cast from somewhere, and you did say the smoking man played by William B. Davis.
Yes.
And I was like, who's that? And you said, well, it's this guy that kind of pops up every now and again in the background, and you don't really know that much about him, but as the seasons go on, you get a little bit more, and you find out that he's a lot more involved in things that than perhaps we knew, and a lot more pulling strings in the background, and a lot more secretive stuff around him.
Because he appeared in the first episode,
yeah,
but nothing more than like an extra. Oh, not really an extra. He had a few
background
lines.
actor, if you like.
First scene, he had no lines. He was just leaning against a filing cabinet, smoking a cigarette. And the next scene he was in the pilot, he had a couple of lines. Again, leaning against the filing cabinet, smoking. And then after that, he just sort of appeared again and again and again.
And there's this whole thing that builds up, isn't it? While there's the arc with Mulder and Scully and investigating the unexplained, there's also they're reporting back to Skinner, who we mentioned earlier, Mitch Pileggi, who's like the FBI director. And there's kind of the whole politics going on where he's dealing with this cigarette smoking man. He's dealing with like people higher up above him, like documents are going missing, evidence is going missing, and they're trying to investigate things further, and they're being stopped from investigating.
So they're looking at conspiracies. At the same time that there's a whole conspiracy at home, if you like. About what they're going to do about these conspiracies.
So there might be something that Mulder wants to look into, and Skinner will put him off looking into it further, or by doing certain things with the case because his higher ups have blocked it. And so there was a lot of that kind of inter-department politics going on as well, where Skinner is more sort of Scully at the start, and he's sceptical, but as time goes on, he sees this stuff going on, what they're finding and what they're going on. He becomes kind of more on their side and trying to back them up, but he's being blocked from people like above him, like above his pay grade and altering things, and he's basically losing that control to be able to do certain things and to help them. So that's another element that's in there. Obviously, you mentioned about the mythology, and it's quite interesting as well where they did the monster of the week, but then they did like we spoke about cryptids earlier. They did like one with like the Jersey Devil.
Yes.
They did one, I think, with Bigfoot at some point.
Chupacabra.
Yeah, Chupacabra. They've done ones where there's like mysterious creature in the woods, like, and people disappearing every 20 years or whatever, and they've done episodes where they look into that, and it's like some sort of creature, or it's a person that's turned into a creature for some sort of reason.
Yeah, you name it, they've done it. Succubus, zombies at one point.
Yeah, and then you've got things as well, like people with like superhuman powers, so like people that can like move things with the mind randomly, or
Pusher.
yeah.
Yeah.
Or like
classic.
Tombs, like the classic episode with the guy that can stretch through the small spaces and things. And
He was in the first Monster of the Week episode, wasn't he?
I think so.
Yeah.
So he had a lot of things.
It seems like they kind of were doing what Supernatural was doing.
Yeah.
Before Supernatural was doing.
Before they Supernatural did it, they kind of.
Do you think that idea might have been born
Yes.
in the X-Files?
The people behind Supernatural were inspired by the X-Files.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have they said so? I assume they.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah.
There's certainly that dark, gritty element sometimes in Supernatural that's very reminiscent of what they've done in X-Files, isn't there? Definitely.
Yeah, some weird things. But it's also interesting to know that there are some episodes, not a lot, but there are some episodes with no supernatural element in at all. The first one that comes to mind also happens to be the one that was banned for quite a while.
Yeah.
The episode in season 4 called Home. It was the first in Fox's day to get a TVMA rating, and it was banned for being very brutal in violence and that with it. But yeah, that didn't have any supernatural elements of it because I mean. Essentially, part of the episode, they find this deformed baby that's been buried outside this home, and it's got like this weird atmosphere. And the sheriff's like called the FBI out because he has to, because he doesn't really know how to deal with that. And it turns out that baby was the product of quite a lot of incest, and it's very reminiscent of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And there's this particular murder scene in it which you don't see any blood in it, but you hear a lot of the sounds of it, and you just hear it's brutal, absolutely brutal. But no supernatural elements in it at all. And there's very few episodes that have that. But I like that how every now and again subvert your expectations.
Yeah, I think they were very good at that, where they didn't stick on the same sort of thing for too long. They would change it up, and like you'd watch an episode and go, "Oh, that's a bit different," or "It's a completely different idea to what we've seen before," and they change things up like that. And I think Chris Carter was very good at that.
We've spoken about the fact coming. We're going to do this thing on the show pod on House, and we set out. Again, that show, and every now and again, there's an episode in that's done in a completely different way. Supernatural did it.
Yeah.
The episode from the perspective of a car. So you get these shows that do. They're always these long-running shows, aren't they, as well?
Yeah.
Tend to be, yeah.
So I mean, in terms of the X-Files, then, does it ever get to a point where you start to think, oh, I'm struggling to get through it a little bit here. We need to change it up a bit, because I mean, most series have that where it peaks, and you're like, oh.
I think certainly in the first original run, I don't think there was any of that feeling of getting tired with it. I think it was always quite fresh. I think maybe like later on, I think they kind of tried to kind of explain a lot of things at once and get through it quite quickly. And that's probably why they had brought in the 2 movies, so they could explain a bit in those rather than having to do another 2
realise there was
series.
movies.
Oh yeah. The first film came out in between season 5
5
and
and
6
6, yeah.
of the original run. It's set in between them. It follows on like the mythology, but you can see it on its own.
So it does. You can go into it and just watch it.
Yeah.
But if you watch the series, it does continue the arc and carries everything.
Yeah, in fact, I would recommend if you want to get a taste of it without any of like the homework, watch that. Came out in 1998. There's a second one that came out in 2008 called The X-Files I Want to Believe, which is a standalone episode. That's where we got the title from. But yeah, it's a standalone sort of story, wasn't it? And
Yeah.
it didn't really have much in the way of connective tissue to the rest of it. But yeah, it does have films in as well as being like a long running series.
Yeah, and then they bought the obviously the latest specials like new series back, didn't they? Not too long, a few years ago now, but recent history.
I'll quiz you about those in a minute.
Okay.
But before we do that, I think it's time that myself and Dave put our minds together, or against each other, I should say. Because Mr. Jethro threw down the gauntlet at the beginning of this series of Showpod, and he said, "Who is the geekiest? Whose memory palace is bigger? Whose brain needs to report to..." No, that didn't say that. But he said, "Let's do a quiz." So the Geeky Quiz, each time myself, Dave, and I. Yeah, we basically. Yeah, it is tea, it's not vodka, honest. Me and Dave put our minds together against each other in a competition. You know how it works by
You've
now.
seen it before.
Yeah, that's it. Jethro asks questions, we try to answer them, we'll see who wins. The loser at the end of the series does a forfeit. Got there in the end.
There we
So
go.
let's go straight over and find out what Mr. Jethro's got for us this time. Good evening, and this is the news. I feel like a newsreader, decided.
Well, this isn't the geeky news, this is the geeky quiz.
A two-seater mini light aircraft crashed in a cemetery in Southern Ireland this morning. So far, the police have recovered over 2,000 bodies.
Which franchise has more episodes, NCIS or CSI?
NCIS.
Correct. Question number 2. What is the registry of the USS Voyager?
NCC 74656.
Correct. Question number 3. Deuterium is an isotope of which element?
Probably wrong, but plutonium.
Incorrect.
I don't know, honestly, I don't know.
Alright, the correct answer is hydrogen.
I would never have guessed hydrogen.
Question number 4. How many Terminator films did Arnold Schwarzenegger star in?
5?
Correct.
And that was 4 or 5.
I was on the cusp there, 4 or 5.
Question number 5. How many Enterprises did we see in the Star Trek Picard finale?
3.
No.
2.
No.
5.
Yes. Question number 6. Which Star Trek the original series actor had a recurring role in Babylon 5?
Walter Koenig.
Yes. Question number 7. Who was the first man in space?
Yuri Gagarin.
Yes.
Wrong.
Question number 8. What's the name of our closest star?
Alpha Centauri.
Incorrect.
The Sun.
Correct.
Yeah.
Question number 9. When was the WOW signal received?
Don't know. Not a clue, Dave.
1984.
1984. Do you want to have a guess there?
Well, I might as well. I'm going to go 1978.
1977.
Next 70s or 80s, can't remember which.
I was going to say, I just imagined it would be earlier, but it was a bit of a guess, but that was a close guess.
And question number 10. Who wrote the sci-fi book Adjustment Team?
I don't know, so I'm just going to guess Andy Weir.
No.
Asimov.
No.
I honestly don't know. So
Dean Koontz.
No.
Stephen Baxter.
No. Philip K. Dick. So with that, Mr. P wins that one.
Oh, fantastic!
One each.
Yes, we've recorded 2 today, 1 each. I don't know where that puts us in the
But,
grand
well-
scheme of things.
See what that's done to the graph.
We need a graph, Jethro.
We need a graph, yeah.
Another win for me.
Yes.
Excellent, lovely job.
You win some, you lose some.
You win. That's how
He's
it
got to
works.
win sometimes.
I don't even know where we are series-wise now.
Mr. Jethro's still working on the
He's
graph.
still working on the graph. We'll get to that. We never actually told him to work on a graph.
Yeah, but we thought from what we'd said, he would have picked those vibes up and
Right.
he'd have got working on it. But
I need more than just vibes. I need...
communication.
Needs someone on work experience to come and do the graph for him.
Yeah,
He needs,
That's it. Slave labour.
and he still ain't got his whiteboard.
no,
No.
we still haven't got it
Whiteboard.
yet.
Like I say, I could be just holding it hostage till I go white.
You know what? When it comes to the next show pod, I've got a little surprise for you.
Oh,
Anyway.
oh.
So yeah. So let's get back to the X-Files for a minute.
Yes.
here. So
Yeah.
now
Yeah,
there was a full run, a standard run. We had a film in between. Was it 5 and 6? Did you say?
Between season 5 and 6.
5 and
Yeah.
6. Another one 10 years later. But we also had this revival series. Now, was there 2 revival series?
2 seasons, yeah.
2 seasons.
Yeah.
Consecutively, just one after the other, or
2016 and 2018.
right?
Yeah,
Okay.
Bit of a break.
And did they continue the main story arc and everything on, or had it already been wrapped up in the main series?
They continued on about the truth being out there, yeah.
Right. I meant more. I mean, obviously, Mulder wanted to find out more about what happened, and that.
I'm not, well, that's...
We don't want to give spoilers,
Exactly,
but
exactly. No,
And if you've not watched it yet, you're as bad as him.
so yeah.
So you don't want spoilers, but you want to know what happens.
Well, not
Well,
quite.
no, I'm not
I
gonna-
just want to know: do they start a new story arc for the new shows, or are they still carrying on the one from the old one?
Basically the same one, isn't
Yeah,
it?
there's new things sort
it
of
doesn't
happening
get
in the
wrapped up.
background, but they are carrying on with the same old song and dance and following on from the main story.
So
Still.
we can't spoil it for him, can
Yeah,
we? We need to be as vague as we can.
Honestly,
Yeah, because
it's like
he's got to watch all of them before the next show pod.
seriously, guys, people out there, you can give Dave a glass of wine and get information from him. Mr. Jethro is like a rock. He will not give anything away, and it's like no, and it's like, well, can't you even just tell me, no.
that's right, because he
I
likes-
can't even confirm there's an episode.
That's right, because he likes very expensive honey rum.
He does, and we do have some in
Yeah.
Geeky Guys HQ
Oh, do you?
at the moment. Yes.
Oh,
Well, we have honey rum. I'm not sure about the very
He'll be
expensive.
singing like a canary later.
He will. He's like, well, Mulder does this, and yeah,
No,
he won't.
I
He won't.
don't
He's-
crack easy. I
he's
don't crack
resolute.
easy.
Honestly, it won't happen.
but it's important to note as well that Mulder doesn't like appear in all of the series. They took off from the after.
No, of course, yeah, because
Yeah.
they replaced him,
The-
didn't he, with
Really?
Robert
with the
Patrick.
Terminator.
Yes, the T-1000.
Really?
Yes,
Why?
because he wanted to move on to other projects, but it wasn't like he
Was-
left completely.
No, was that when he was doing Californication, or was that?
That was later. Did that start airing in 2006? I want to say.
I know he went off
2006.
to do a big thing, didn't he? But
Yeah,
can't
I
remember
don't
if
think it was
that or something
Californication.
else.
I don't think it was that. I think that happened
You'd
a bit
probably
later.
like that, actually. That was quite good.
Well,
I saw the
Californication.
trailers for it. I stay in California, I gather. I like California.
Yeah, probably has a lot of sex in it by the sounds of it. So
Well, I mean, obviously, if you think I'm going
Yes.
to like it, then I'll obviously give it a watch. But
Yeah, so a lot of the ladies liked it, didn't they? That's
market
when
research
he
purposes.
was appearing on all the sexiest men in the world lists and stuff, wasn't it? Around that point.
I assume then it was in his contract that he had to get his top off quite a lot, which normally happens in those shows, doesn't it?
Yeah. What they'll do for ratings, then.
but yeah.
So
he
join
was-
us next time where we'll all be having our tops off. Yeah, we won't at the minute.
they'll be turning off.
it's-
And complaining.
And then we had obviously as well as Robert Patrick, we had Annabelle Gish come in later on in the
Yes.
series as well.
Who, sorry?
Annabelle Gish.
Right.
As Scully became a bit more sporadic in season 9, that she came in as a bit more of a consistent presence in it.
Of course, she got pregnant as well, didn't she, during the series run?
Oh,
Which,
season 2. Yeah, that's an important thing. It's not really, well, I mean, it's spoilers, but should we go there? Should we go there?
no, he's got to watch it really.
Oh, okay,
But,
right.
I assume what you're going to say just to help you with the spoiler, because I know it's horrible for you to say things like this. I assume she got pregnant and they had to cover it up with a story of some kind.
Yes.
Right.
Shall we tell them what the story
They
is?
normally do this on shows. They normally write it in. I mean, take the big famous example, I suppose, which everyone's going to know, is Phoebe from Friends, of course, got pregnant.
Yes.
So they wrote it into the story that she was going to surrogate for her brother's twins,
Right.
which is why she didn't film in the UK when they came over, because she couldn't fly.
Yes, that makes sense.
Yeah. And because she was actually pregnant in the story and in real life. But yes, I assume they wrote something in. That kind of covered that a little bit. You can cover it with clothes most of the time.
Yeah, they were a bit more tight with the shots. That she wasn't necessarily on location filming for a lot of it.
Yeah.
It's quite interesting how they dealt with that, and I think that
I'm always
ultimately
interested.
how they dealt with it added to the story.
It did.
Yeah.
I'm always interested in how they film things and keep your big belly out of it, because honestly, if we could shoot this from here, that'd be amazing, wouldn't it?
Yeah. That's why we favour a desk that finishes here.
It would be lovely, wouldn't it? So is there scope to make more X-Files?
Yes.
You said that very quick.
Yeah. Well, they're doing it, aren't they?
Are they making more? Is it
I mean, I don't know whether it's going to be a complete reboot or it's going to be a continuation. Hopefully it'll be a bit more of continuation, but I can see where there'd be difficulties in doing that. Whereas if you do a whole new thing, you can kind of explore it in a different way.
We love continuations.
You're not held
here at
back
Geeky
by the
Guys.
previous show.
We don't necessarily. I think if you had to really scale it and say 50, there's the scale. Are you slightly more yes or slightly more no? Does it work? I think we're more like no, it doesn't work to do reboots. I think we're more let's continue it.
I
somehow.
suppose you could have it like they've done before in the actual main run of the show, where they actually reopen the X-Files again, and bring 2 new agents in. You know, like you say, you could have a Gillian Anderson cameo, you could have a David Duchovny cameo.
Which she has said that she would do for the new series to hand over
so
the
they
torch.
could do that, and if they go back to the classic, what they were doing before, I think it would still work now. And I heard somebody say the other day it would probably work better now, because there's more out there in the popular culture about UFOs, aliens, cryptids, and unsolved things.
That being said, I'm not sure if it would or not. The reason being, in the 90s, conspiracy theories were a bit more sexy.
Yeah.
They were, and the way I say that is mainly like aliens have abducted me, or like Bigfoot is out there, or things like that. And occasionally you get a government conspiracy that turns out to be true, like MK Ultra, or ones where they put LSD in the water supply of small towns, which they did in the X-Files, and that was an actual thing that the CIA did in real life.
Those crazy kids.
Yes, but nowadays conspiracy theorists, dare I say, the type to break into government buildings and things like that. I don't know. Conspiracy theories have lost their sex appeal in real life. So how would that bleed into dealing with something that mainly deals with conspiracy theories nowadays? Because the landscape has changed.
And also technology's moved on. You've got more social media, smartphones, that sort of thing.
Yes.
So
it would have to be a slightly different approach, maybe.
Yeah. I still think that, I've not seen
work.
much of the series, but I still think this is something they could go back and do, because there is always conspiracy theories.
Oh yeah. Like there's this one shot in X-Files I think it's in I Want to Believe, where it had conspicuously in the foreground, but it wasn't focusing on it, a bit of bright orange tape over Mulder's webcam, almost to be like, yeah, he's a conspiracy nut, he covers his camera. And obviously in 2013, it was revealed, actually no, the US government do spy on you, the US government do have access to everyone's information, and that's like,
Yeah.
that's the norm now. That's not a conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy. But
So yes, they could do more.
yeah.
They could do more. Let me just ask you this then, because we talked a lot about the series, but we always do a bit of a trivia type section. I don't know much about X-Files, so I can't really come out with anything. Pretty much like the last video, I came out with most of the stuff. So Can you give me some interesting, did you know type trivia facts about the X-Files that might be quite interesting?
Yeah, okay. So the first one, best one to start on is obviously in the show. Mulder, David Duchovny is the believer, Gillian Anderson is the skeptic. But in real life, it's actually the other way round. So
Right.
Gillian Anderson is much more open to like mysteries and cryptids and UFOs and aliens, whereas David Duchovny is more the skeptic. No, it's all a load of crap.
Oh, okay.
So it's kind of switched round in real life, which is interesting.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that does make it interesting. My bit of trivia is season 1 to 5 was filmed in Vancouver.
The
Hollywood of the North.
Yes. But
Good old metropolis. Viewed in Supernatural.
But season 6 to 9 was filmed in LA.
Oh, interesting.
Moved to LA. The reason being is Duchovny lives in LA and he wanted to spend more time in LA, and he was asking for quite a few years, and after a while it was like, actually, yeah, let's move production to LA just to, you know.
There was a time when it was cheaper to film in Vancouver because of the rising costs in LA, in California, to film. And that's to be fair, that's been a thing throughout history. To be fair,
Yeah.
You know, they film a lot in the UK instead of filming in California.
That's true.
You know, because of costs and
Australia.
And Australia. In fact, heck, we only got bit of Superman trivia, so we'll squeeze that in. Let's face it, we only got Jackie Cooper as Perry White in the original Superman films because they moved production from America to the UK because of cost cuts. And Jackie Cooper had a passport, and the guy that were going to play Perry White didn't. So he couldn't do it. So they needed someone last minute, and it was literally Perry White was like the last person cast because it was like 2 weeks or a week before filming, literally. And someone got on the phone to him and said, "Jackie, do you want to Perry White in Superman?" He's like, yeah. You got a passport? Yeah, I've got a passport. He's like, great, let's go. And that was it. And it was made for him. Let's be honest.
Yeah,
anyway, sorry. Trivia.
My other bit of trivia. Mark Snow, that composed the classic popular X-Files theme tune.
How does that go, Dave?
Not the Geeky Guys theme tune. But the part of the song was actually composed by accident when he switched on the echo on his keyboard or whatever synthesizer he was using, and then his elbow leant on it.
Of course, yeah.
And he thought, "Oh, that's quite a nice sound. I'll leave that in."
Leave it in.
Sense. And that's how they ended up with that echoey part of the theme in that. Do you have another one for us, Mr. Jethro?
A bit of trivia. The lone gunmen, who were like the three sidekicks, or the three friends of Mulder, who were like very much into conspiracies and had their things on.
Yeah, they were like the classic conspiracy group, weren't they?
Yes.
Looking into stuff, and they'd like hack into things and get information and pass it on to Mulder.
Like the Scooby Gang.
They were heavily inspired by a guy called Art Bell, who was the host of a radio show called Coast to Coast AM, which generally dealt with paranormal and supernatural topics.
Yeah, that's true.
And they were very much based. In fact, the whole series was very much inspired in part because of Coast to Coast.
And the guy, I can't remember his name now. The guy with the longer hair with the glasses.
Yeah.
The lone gunman. He's actually got a podcast where he sometimes talks about like mysteries and unexplained things.
Oh,
as
nice.
Well. Can't remember his name now. But I've not listened to his stuff for a while. But yeah, I believe he's still out there, like doing like quite a popular
Truth is out
podcast
there.
and that type of stuff.
Nice.
I knew you were going to say that.
And one other bit of little bit of trivia I can give is, I remember Chris Carter saying in an interview a while back when the series was still running that the military, like the FBI, had kind of been in touch with him and said some of the things that like they did, some of the protocols and procedures were like very similar to like real life, and they got a lot of things right.
Oh, nice.
How things would be done and how agencies would deal with things a certain way. He said he got pretty much spot on, so he's obviously done his research for the show. He
also appeared. Chris Carter had a cameo in the season 2 episode called Anasazi, which I think was season 2 finale. Which also happens to be my favourite episode.
Yeah. This is a little bit related. Just shows you when kind of the governments and the military don't kind of like speak so nicely about production and get involved. On Independence Day, obviously UFOs and aliens again. They wanted the military and the government, like certain agencies, to be consultants on the films, and because they were featuring Area 51 on it and certain things, they refused to do it.
Yep.
Which is a bit silly, really.
Yeah.
It's fiction, and I mean, back then though, it was still probably people still thinking that the.
Well, it wasn't confirmed. It was the existence of Area 51 was only confirmed in 2013.
Right. Okay. I mean, that's a bit silly anyway.
Well,
But
I mean,
officially confirmed. I mean, like we said back in the 50s, it was always been an airbase that's secretive, and they may even
calling it Area 51, that wasn't the official term. That was the conspiracy theorist term.
Yeah.
And they don't want to acknowledge that at all.
Yeah.
But Stargate had a pre-existing relationship with the military. Then I think during season 5 when they introduced that Area 51 as a big plot point. I think it was season 5. Was it season? Oh. Anyway, when they did that, the Air Force, they were not happy. They were like, "You can't do this. You can't do blah blah blah." And eventually they talked them down, and they had what they called the apology patch put onto each uniform, the little patch with the official Air Force insignia on the arm, as well as their like the regular Stargate patches.
I mean, what people call it shouldn't make a difference, really. I mean,
that was their policy.
Is it Andrews or Williams? Williams Air Force Base or Andrews Air Force Base?
I forget. But either way, that was the official policy, is not to acknowledge anything like that. And it was also official policy up until recently to ignore all reports of UFOs. But obviously in the past year, that stigma has been slowly eroded away, arguably for the better.
Yeah, definitely.
Because you're more well read in that subject.
Yeah,
aren't you?
yeah, that's a deep dive that's probably we should use for UFOs and Aliens Part 2.
Yeah.
Which would be a good idea to do that at some point.
My only trivia I can give you is nothing to do with X-Files because I don't know any. So I'll give you random film and TV trivia.
Mr. P's random piece of trivia.
Random piece of trivia, which is that when you hear raindrops on TV and film, if you actually get the sound for raindrops, it doesn't really sound very good on film. So they generally use frying bacon in a pan and record that and use that as raindrops on film
and the
and
salted
TV.
lunch at the same time.
Sort of lunch at the same time.
Genius.
But there you go.
Genius.
That's my bit of random trivia. It's not really connected.
What I did like is on, just to finish up, on the second Top Gun film, Top Gun Maverick, they talked about how the close relationship with the military and the Air Force.
Yep.
And a lot of the carrier staff, a lot of the real pilots and the real staff that work on bringing the planes in were all like actual real workers, not actors.
Oh, it's a lot easier just to say,
Stand there, do your job, we'll film you.
We'll film you doing your job, so we got to know what you're doing, and then just do it again. Why get someone to do something when to pretend to do something when you can just come to do it?
I mean, essentially, it's not to diminish it, but it's almost like a corporate sponsorship. That essentially you are also presenting and using the brand of the US military. They also want to make sure that they are portrayed in a certain way, i.e. not negatively, but also not showing things that could potentially give away operational procedures. Like if you're filming on an aircraft carrier, there's certain things you can't show.
No.
Yeah.
But also they, again, with Area 51, they don't want to perpetuate anything like that or be seen to perpetuate that, because...
One thing I didn't mention earlier is that like there was some times where they'd like have a bit of a laugh at themselves as well. So I remember there was one where like it was made out that like I think Mulder was being abducted by aliens, but it was actually people in suits and stuff, and it was all like made up and stuff. It was kind of like a setup to like make him look bad. So there was kind of things like that where they do like a bit of a more humorous episode. Those were always quite good as well.
And there's even an episode where it's in black and white.
Yeah.
Just weird things, and like a Groundhog Day type episode.
Yeah.
Where they have to stop a bank robbery. Monday was the name of the episode.
Yeah.
Oh, that might be quite cool.
Yeah.
What series was that?
6.
So yeah, good show, Mr. P. Needs to watch it.
I do. I started the first few episodes. I think you put me onto the pilot when you were here, over here visiting Geeky Guys HQ, and you said, "Oh, we ought to watch it on streaming." So I put the first one, and then I did watch a few after that, or maybe I just watched it because you'd said it, and then I watched it and you'd gone.
Yeah,
Either way.
I've not sat here and watched
No,
it with you.
that's it. Then I must have watched it after you'd gone.
One thing I really like about it, especially with the pilot, is that for decades and decades, there's been like these alien abduction stories about bright lights, people hovering, lots
Same
of time.
sort of thing, isn't it?
Same sort of thing.
Variations on a theme, I should say.
But the episodes, the first episode, is really, really faithful to a lot of people's experiences. Yes, and and it's just great to see that whenever there's like this cryptid or this weird thing, they are very faithful
to the lore and
to the lore,
mystery and
to the reports, to the stories, to everything like that.
And that again goes back to the thing about the 3-letter agencies, the military saying to like Chris Carter, "Oh, like was impressed with some of these things that you did. It is how we do it, or how we do certain things."
Yes.
The researchers must have a ball of a time looking at all that stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they love it or hate it, but it must take hours of sifting through stuff.
Yeah. Well, things like say the chupacabra, that is a relatively well-known thing, but it's talk about Dave, pick an episode with an obscure monster.
Answers on a postcard, please.
I'm trying to think of one. There's one with like gargoyles in.
Well, they did one on Mothman, didn't they?
Oh, did they?
Jersey Devil. Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, that's that.
Yeah, they always tried to get detail right, didn't
Yes, yes.
they? And like sometimes some of these mysteries you'd kind of get to see them elaborate it and like do an origin story and go into it a bit more. It's really good.
So the summary here is basically it's a long-running show for a reason, which is that it's very good and it needs to be watched.
Yes, and the
It
fact that
could
you
be-
haven't already, I think, is your loss.
Right, I thought you were going to tell me off, but that's fine.
And of course,
no.
it was a massive, as we mentioned earlier, a massive promotion for torches as well.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, I mean, also batteries as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
batteries.
sponsored by Duracell.
Yeah, Vancouver warehouses, for some reason, don't seem to have any power anywhere, do they?
So the summary there is that we definitely need to watch it if you've not already, and I need to catch up and watch some more and get through the series.
Yeah,
All
I don't
of
mind
it.
watching it again. Do you mind?
Yeah.
All
I'd
217
watch it,
episodes need to be watched.
It's been a long time since I've done a full
I'm currently
rewatch.
doing my homework on a different show, which is probably going to be our next video, I guess. Our
Potentially.
no show pod is going to be. So our next show pod, I'm going to make it canon right now. Our next
We're in
show
it.
pod is going to be about House, the medical drama House. I am on series 8,
Nearly
episode
there.
16. There's only how many?
22 in season 8.
We're definitely doing House next time. So that's going to be cool. The great Hugh Laurie there as Dr. Gregory House. So
Gregory
that's
House,
great. So if
MD.
you've watched House, or if you haven't watched House, don't forget to catch our next show pod. For all our stuff, you can go to geekyguys.co.uk to find our socials, and don't forget to put the old like button there.
Like and subscribe,
Yeah.
follow, all that
We
stuff.
appreciate that. And
Send us
yeah,
your money.
And your whiteboards.
Yeah, and more whiteboards, yeah.
oh
Just throw this,
dear,
deliver it.
Put us onto the deed of your house.
it's all going horribly wrong. Yes, you don't need to send us whiteboards, and you don't need to put us on the deed of your house.
But money, on the other hand.
Oh yeah, you can send
yeah,
money.
send it there,
Send
yeah.
as much money as you want. We'll get a link on the website for some kind of
The Kickstarter for Geeky Guys trip to Vegas.
yeah. You can meet us in Vegas.
Just got to pay for us to go.
You should pay for us to go. Yeah. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.